Are you comfortable with staying with the agenda because the next item would be current efforts of the Public Safety Department? David's going to talk about the Austin Regional Intelligence Center. Is that what you have in mind, David?
Yes.
Carter.
Basically, to talk, we weren't exactly sure whether there'd be any business at this first meeting or not. I'm prepared to answer general questions about ARIC as needed because recently some issues did come up from the ACLU. Our plan really is to have a presentation for you at the next commission meeting, which I presume is approximately 1 month from now. But I am ready to answer some general questions about that may arise.
Assistant Chief Carter, before there was a call in order for the meeting, we did have one citizen communications sign up on this topic. I believe it was Mr. Bush.
Okay, Dr. Lauderdale, I guess you're the chair, so.
By your leave, shall we have a citizen communication on that before
Absolutely.
you make a presentation? Okay, if the citizen will come forward, and I believe we need to have you over there. Or where do you wish in terms of the mic access? There you go, right there then.
Right here?
Yes, sir. Your name is, if you would state your name when you're seated, sir.
Yeah, I don't believe I'm the only one that wanted to speak, but we didn't have the ability to sign up whenever we showed up.
Okay.
My name is John Bush. I'm the executive director of Texans for Accountable Government. It's a local nonpartisan political action committee. Do I have 3 minutes? 15? 20?
Let's say 3, and we'll kind of sort those roles out later on. But if you'll indulge us 3 minutes.
Sure. I want to thank all y'all for being out here and thank the council for the creation of the Public Safety Commission. I think it's something that's long overdue. Thank all y'all for your hard work and dedication to making this city great. I'm very concerned with the creation of a fusion center here in Central Texas, primarily because of the abuses that have come out of the fusion center apparatus in the past in a variety of states, even in Collin County, just right up the road. It's worth noting that the software that the fusion centers use that create this information sharing environment were developed as part of a program called Total Information Awareness in 2002. Just to get a brief history about where I believe the fusion centers are taking us as a nation, the Total Information Awareness program basically called for just that, total information awareness. It was created under DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Association or agency. Some of the things that they developed besides the technology and the capability for this massive information sharing environment was something called facial recognition technology, where they have the ability up to 5,000 feet away to scan your face, match it with a photo that the DPS has, and effectively pull you up in the database. Along with that, they came up with speech-to-text recognition, so you can have microphones on the cameras around town. Some cities are installing them to monitor if there's gunshots. They would be able to pick up whatever you're saying and store it in a database. And the Fusion Center would be the node that all of this comes together towards. And while we don't have that on the table here in the city of Austin, again, what we see striving in all sorts of different regions and other fusion centers is the inclusion of this technology with the Fusion Center apparatus. I'm just going to go over a few of the abuses in the past, just so you guys can be aware, because the Public Safety Commission is going to be the one overseeing this. And I just want everybody to realize that this isn't something to take lightly, and it's something definitely that should not be rubber stamped. It should be scrutinized to the utmost ability. Starting with the anti-terror apparatus in general started off to protect us from foreign threats, but as of late we've seen it shifting around, and now it's used domestically in many instances for domestic terrorists, which have a very loose definition, unfortunately. In Colorado, we saw the Fusion Center collecting intelligence and databasing info on activists that were protesting the DNC back in 2006, I believe. One of the big things that came out of the Missouri Information Analysis Center, which is their fusion center, was a report called the Modern Militia Movement, which goes over a lot of philosophy of the modern militia movement and whatnot. But one of the things that's really telling in here is what I see a lot of these fusion center strategic reports are doing is pitting the citizens against the law enforcement and police force, making one fear the other group. And in this one, it actually goes as far as to label would-be domestic terrorists, would-be militiamen as individuals that... Was that already 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Do you mind if I continue?
Can you give me a minute more? I think part of what we want to do is to get a little bit more into detail of what we're proposing.
Okay.
One more minute, and if you have materials that you can provide us, I think we're very interested in your concerns.
Okay. I don't have them at the moment, but I will compile a little information packet for you guys. I'll just get to, I was going to go through some more of the abuses, but there's too many to cover in 1 minute. So what I would like to see personally come out of the commission, and if it's possible to do that today, I think that'd be wonderful. The Fusion Center guidelines from the Department of Justice Global Sharing Initiative call on many instances for the creation of a privacy oversight committee to go along and to assist Chief Carter in his practices. He's a very busy man. We've been missing each other, playing a lot of phone tag, but the organization that I represent, as well as several others that are here today, ACLU, as well as Texas Impact, I feel strongly that if we were to have a seat at the table by creating an official authoritative privacy oversight committee, it would help to alleviate a lot of the concerns in the community with these privacy and civil liberties abuses that we've seen in the past. So that's one thing I would like to see come out of this board, a privacy oversight committee with representatives from the community, from civil libertarian organizations that can work in an official capacity alongside the Austin Police Department and the other organizations that are participating. I think that's definitely something that's not too much to ask for, and it's part of the Federal Fusion Center guidelines as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask a question?
Yes, certainly we may.
I'm sorry, I don't understand one. Well, I'm going to make one comment. One is, if you've been following facial recognition, you see the FBI have officially abandoned it as an effective technique, certainly even at 5 feet, let alone 5,000 feet. So I think that's a little bit of hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
I very much would like to see a list of issues about fusion centers. The thing that I tend to hear is they're ineffective, not overly effective.
Mm-hmm.
My question for you is, why should they not be addressing domestic terrorism, considering that eco-terrorists and militia groups are the major terrorism threat within the U.S. borders?
Mm-hmm. Sure. What I was going to get into, a lot of my examples, every single one of my examples, there's about 6 of them, demonstrate where a fusion center has been used to track peaceful dissent. And so I think that's a big threat here. It has a quelling, a chilling effect where individuals will be afraid to go out and speak against whatever policy or whatnot it may be. So, sure, there is a threat of domestic terrorism, and there has been violent radicalization in the United States, but the fusion center is being used for more than just that.
Chair.
I wanted to ask you, so do you have any examples of any of the cities where they're keeping a balance which you would be happy with, and the law enforcement can do their jobs, and the public are served at the same time?
Yeah, in Missouri, and that's a state fusion center. There's regional, local, and state fusion centers as well. They recently retracted the document that I spoke of, the modern militia document, and they are in the process of working to create more citizen-based oversight. But as far as a specific instance, I wouldn't be able to tell you that right now. But as long as the community is being included in every aspect of the discussion, I think, again, that'll go well to alleviate a lot of the concerns that we have.
Mr. Levy.
Yes, it would be helpful if there are groups that have genuine concerns, but they're disparate groups. If it's possible, for instance, your group and the ACLU could come together with a unified voice and a unified point of view. I think that would be extremely helpful to the discussion. And also, it's one thing to be able to hold up, hey, these are organizations that have had what you consider to be abuses, but also benchmark organizations, fusion centers that you believe have been models for what you believe have been a good balance. And I'm sure you realize there are good folks out there who do a good job. So if you could give us both, I think that would be helpful.
Great. I think we have the opportunity to make the model fusion center for the country here in Austin.
Chair, if I can address at some point, if you want me to.
Please, Chief Carter.
One of the things we definitely want to do at the next commission meeting is actually give you a PowerPoint presentation of the status of ARIC, which stands for Austin Regional Intelligence Center. And Mr. Bush actually points out some very important points. For example, currently there are 72 fusion centers across the country. And a lot of the issues and concerns that have arisen across the country involve fusion centers that may have allowed information to come out or had done some kind of analysis on situations that really did not have a criminal predicate Also, in some cases, there was concerns about constitutionality where people may have been, or at least it was presented in a way that people were looked at because of their political affiliation or perhaps a religious belief, which is contrary to our understanding of how a fusion center should operate. And I do want to stress that there is currently no fusion center in Austin. We're basically in the process of trying to stand it up. We want to stand it up in the right way. We also want to stand it up in such a way that Mr. Bush and Mr. Simpson, that we can work with them in terms of the issues of great concern. What those concerns really are about are privacy policy. They're about executive leadership, defining the roles, following state laws in terms of federal and state laws in terms of open records. There are issues about who has access to the information and who has authority, as well as a need to know. You have to have both of those things. My plan is to bring you that by the next commission meeting, to present that to you and to share it beforehand. And Mr. Bush and Mr. Simpson there, we do, while we have played phone tag, I've been out of the country for a little bit, but I do want to work with them, and I think it's important to hear their point of view and address their concerns. And I just want to stress that in this all crimes, all hazards approach, as we work through these issues, we do want that input, and we'll be seeking that and finding a way to, let everybody express their concerns and address those.
Mr. Saldana.
Mr. Bush, how soon can you get us the paperwork pertaining to your fusion?
By the end of the week. Does that work?
Right on.
Mr. Bush, I know that some of the organizations, such as the ACLU of Texas, have been working on draft memorandums of understanding and draft policy guidelines and things like that. Has your organization developed similar documents that you can also share with the Commission?
Yes.
Right, thank you.
Chief Carter, do you feel that your department bears the chief organizational responsibility for the creation of the Fusion Center?
We do. It's actually a collaborative effort between ourselves, the City of Round Rock Police Department, Travis County Sheriff's Department, Williamson County Sheriff's Department, Hayes County Sheriff's Department, as well as San Marcos Police Department. Other organizations in our area, other jurisdictions are invited to come and work with us, because really what we're trying to do is our number one goal is to take the data that we have lawfully collected and that it's in our criminal database and find a way to share information. For example, if I have a serial robber that's occurring that's hitting in the city of Austin and also in the city of Round Rock, and I've got half the information, but I don't have the full picture, and Round Rock's got some additional witness information. The idea is to be able to share that data, put together some leads that help investigators solve those crimes. So, what Fusion for us is about information with a criminal predicate. It does involve anything from serial offenses to organized crime, narcotics trafficking, human trafficking, to also include terrorism issues that have also been mentioned.
Chief Carter, isn't there a DPS Fusion Center in Austin?
There's a state fusion center that is located in Austin, yes.
And how would we interface with that? Do you know?
I do. And one of the things is that Texas is a large state and has a state fusion center that has an orientation toward a variety of offenses of concern to the state. This state really is an urban state, even though it's a huge land area. If you think about in terms of the population, we have in Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso. One of the areas that we've needed to work a little bit better is to be able to share information at the regional level. And so the way this would work in particular is that we would remain autonomous from the State Fusion Center, but we would we'd be in close proximity. We would collaborate where it was appropriate to do so under the guidelines that is to do so. But the State's Fusion Center actually operates and will operate independently and somewhat differently than the Austin Regional Intelligence Center.
So you won't have the ability to share information between the regional center and the state center and vice versa?
We will. We will have the ability to do that, but the membership and the regional center focus, the members in that particular group will actually be primarily from the jurisdictions that I mentioned, the Austin Police Department, Travis County, Williamson County, all of the criminal law enforcement jurisdictions within our within our particular area. Yes, we will interface with the State Fusion Center, but we will be maintain our own operation.
So I'm not sure I understand how we can set guidelines for the information in the Austin Regional Fusion Center, but if it's using information from a state system that doesn't follow these guidelines, how will that work?
What happens is that in law enforcement today is that you have a vast array of databases across the state, across the country, and in some cases in other countries. The issue is that within the legitimate fusion centers and the direction that the DHS, the state, and also the local law enforcement want to go is basically ones that are compliant, focus on issues of national law enforcement intelligence, which could be different than national security intelligence. And as a result, the information that we get has to be lawfully collected. It has to follow federal guidelines on criminal law enforcement sharing, which is 28 CFR Part 23, the Code of Federal Regulations that basically restrict the kind of information, how long it can be maintained, the people that have access to that information. We can control that. In other words, that is the expectation. The next important piece that I'm sure people will want to know about is that the council, city council, and the other participating jurisdictions will have to come up with an interlocal agreement. Our proposal was that interlocal agreement would go before city council sometime in mid to late January. So you'll have an opportunity to look at those particular things. But in that interlocal, it will have certain requirements in terms of whoever's participating in this endeavor. So if the information's come in was unlawfully collected, if somebody's medical records were placed into a database that had not been properly vetted and there was not a criminal subpoena, then that information would be unlawful, and there would be no value for a police department having that, because that information basically would be suppressed and could not be used in a criminal trial, which is at the end of the day what we want to occur, or we want to happen is a successful prosecution.
Other comments or questions from commission members? Chief Carter, do you want to tell us more about that, or in effect, is this something best addressed the Fusion Center at our next meeting? What is your preference?
As we're in the process here, and I think one thing is very interested that Mr. Bush and Mr. Simpson and others will be very interested to know is the issue of the privacy policy. Our hope is to get the privacy policy back from the federal government in terms, and also the Institute for Intergovernmental Relations, to look at this and make sure that we are compliant with 28 CFR Part 23. We are compliant with constitutional requirements. And as soon as we receive that, I've given Mr. Simpson and Mr. Bush both my word that I will share that draft document when it comes back. It's just I kind of expected it before now, so my preference would be as if we could wait till the next meeting, then I can present that a little more with a little better understanding.
Mr. Carter, my understanding from what you're saying is that there'll be an opportunity for public input, both from stakeholders and organizations and members of the public in this commission on the privacy policy. Now, this intergovernmental agreement, or memorandum of understanding, will we have a similar opportunity for the public to have input on those components of the center as well?
I would assume so, because the interlocal actually has to be passed by City Council.
Okay.
And so we'd be happy to provide that. And my intention, unless I'm directed otherwise, is to give that to this commission, this body, first, so you can look at it and make some recommendations before it actually goes to Council.
Okay.
Any concerns, Mr. Bush, relative to what you've heard us discuss?
I think one of the most important things moving forward, especially with the privacy policy and the memorandums of understanding in particular, is sticking with intelligence that is based on a criminal predicate, which has been brought up many times. There's some ways that kind of blur that line, especially with the collection of suspicious activity reports, which isn't mentioned in the draft privacy policy just at this point. They do call on collecting suspicious activity reports for anything from asking suspicious questions, I have the Los Angeles County, they came up with some recommendations that the Department of Justice would like to see be uniform across the country. I don't have it with me right now. But it calls on the collection of suspicious activity reports to be included in this Fusion Center intelligence sharing environment when somebody's using binoculars or somebody seems to be taking notes or somebody is espousing extremist views, which unfortunately the Department of Homeland Security has defined extremism. There's a document called Right-Wing Extremists, Current Economic and Political Climate Fueling Resurgence, Radicalization, and Recruitment, and they define right-wing extremism as those groups that are mainly anti-government, rejecting federal authority in favor of state or local authority, which sounds a lot like my group. So we just see a blurring line, and I think one of the things to be very aware of moving forward is that we try to keep as much as possible, if not every single bit of intelligence, to be based on criminal predicate. And I think one of the areas of concern will be that suspicious activity report filing on there as well. Another point of contention with the draft privacy policy statement is it seems to Chief Carter mentioned it, but it's not in there in writing. And again, I know that we're still in the draft form, so it's not, and nothing is final at this point. But we would like to see a declaration making it necessary for the Austin Regional Intelligence Center, and I know it's going to require extra man hours, but sometimes that's the price of liberty, to vet every single piece that comes from an external body, be it the Texas Intelligence Center or an fusion center from another state or whatnot. Before it gets put into our system, I would like to see some sort of process there at a middle point where somebody ensures that is, in fact, legally, properly, constitutionally collected intelligence.
Mr. Bush, I think, if I may, we're starting to move into items for our next agenda, and I think clearly one item for our next agenda, Chief Carter, will be a full discussion of what we're looking at in terms of the Fusion Center. Any kind of material that you can provide to us that you've alluded to as soon as possible so that we can dig in and read that. I think there's many issues out there. Austin is a well-educated community. Dissent is what makes us a university strong. I'm a university professor. He's a university professor. So those are the kinds of things that we would certainly vigorously defend. It's a very large state. Some of us work in Mexico are aware of some of the problems that are occurring there. So I think there are a number of issues that make this very important. So I think one item for the agenda of our next meeting will be an in-depth discussion of the Fusion Center. Chief Carter, kind of where we are on that, who the potential partners are. I think we want to look at what will be the interface with federal law enforcement. We've got Fort Hood nearby. We had a real tragedy that occurred there about 3 weeks ago. So there are really, I think, some thorny sorts of issues, and it's something that it seems it's appropriate that we as a body try to tackle and be able to advise the City Council. So I think we're talking about one of the issues on the next agenda is to get far more deeply into that matter. Chief Carter?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I want to stress to John and Matt both is, I have the pen that says defend the first. And I know that, and Debbie may not believe it, but we believe in your right to say, don't always agree, and we can't always say that we'll always agree, but I do appreciate the dialogue, and I think it's very important. The last comment I'm going to make on this is an opportunity for Austin to actually develop the model in terms of a fusion center, so we're committed to that process, and we know working with the community and the commission is our hope to actually have that model center.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we recognize that, and we appreciate the two-way communication between the police department and our respective organizations.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair.
Yes.
Before we make a commitment that it goes on the agenda, I suggest that the commission charge you with working with Chief Carter to make sure it is ripe for discussion. It may be this coming meeting or the meeting thereafter to make sure it is ripe for discussion.
That we have enough information in that we can...
I believe that Chief Carter said that we're still waiting for Fed guidelines to come down.
Yes, but I do expect them back fairly soon.
Okay. Well, if you were a betting man, I'm not suggesting you are, that do you think this will be ripe for discussion?
Commissioner Levy, if it's within my power, yes.
Okay. You'll just work with the chair, and we'll work out.
And advise the chair if in effect it is proves to be too early.
But it'll be worthy of our discussion. The chair, I have to get somebody else to put it on the agenda with him, but I think just to make sure it's worthy of our time and also the time of the folks who will be visiting with us.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
Thank you.
We appreciate your interest in work on that. I think that we are now considering other items for the next meeting. And let me first ask the question of the city personnel. What are we looking at in terms of the likely date of the next meeting?
I
Are we talking about January?
Yes. You have, in your bylaws, you have said that your regularly scheduled meeting is going to be the first Monday of the month at 4 p.m.
It's going to be the 4th of
I
January.
believe it is the 4th of January. Yes, sir.
All right. I think I need to look at my group up here and say, are you prepared for that to meet on the 4th of January?
All right.
Yeah. Okay.